Hey soldiers, if you think the $33 trillion in debt is bad, well, guess what? It's actually a lot worse than that. A whole lot worse than that. Today we're going to talk about the real national debt. We're also going to talk about what's going to happen to this country as this national debt continues to spiral out of control, and what you need to do in order to insulate yourself from this coming debt storm. It's not even coming, it's here. But the United States economy is so massive and gargantuan that it takes a while to feel the full effect. Although, if you want to feel some effects right now of it, if you want to get a taste of what's going on and what's to come, just visit your local grocery store. Take a $50 bill with you. See how far that gets you in terms of a meal for a family of 4. Let me know in the comments if you decided to take that challenge and how it worked out for you. So look, we're all familiar with this, the national debt clock, right? All right, and it's tallying up the amount of money that the United States, quote unquote, owes. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, that's just the amount of money spent, and we got to look over here and see the amount of money that we've took in over time, and it's all different. You can't think of it as debt. I watched a video yesterday from Al Jazeera where they were making the case that the U.S. can't go broke. All we got to do is just print up more money. It was a very elementary approach that they took, but they did say, kind of contradicted their own point, that the only way that this could fall apart is if inflation continued to go up. Well, here we are, okay? And they also said that inflation and taxes would be the ways in which the United States, tax increases, the ways in which the United States could kind of recoup this money. So that video was made 2 years ago, right? Before we started to get into these inflationary spikes that we're in today. It didn't age well. I'll tag it in the comments. You can go look at it if you get an opportunity, but it is an example of how you should be really judicious in terms of the information that you're taking in, because, they have an agenda. You watch that whole video, you will understand what their agenda is, and it's to spend more money on big projects. We're flat broke, people, okay? So what's the real national debt? Well, it's going to knock your socks off. Behind me, I've got up on the screen the real national debt. And this is from the Truth in Accounting website. Now, of course, we're talking about 33 trillion. Hey, that's what we owe. But in truth, we're at $160 trillion in debt. And I know you're saying, Tyrone, come on now. How'd you arrive at that? That's just, I thought 33 trillion was bad, but now you're talking 160 trillion. You've lost your mind. All right, let's add it up. Okay, so we're talking about the unfunded liabilities that make up the bulk of this. What are they? Well, those are the things that America has made financial commitments to its citizenry to come through on, like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. This is why I always tell people, if you're Generation X, then you might want to have a plan B. Don't rely on Social Security, because they're already saying that it's going to be insolvent by the early 2030s anyway. So the federal government has about $5 trillion in assets. Unfunded Medicare programs, those promises equal $65 trillion. Medicare alone. And part of the reason for that is because, we're going to pause here. Part of the reason for that is because healthcare is so daggone expensive in this country. You need to prepare for that, because you don't want to be shunted into the Medicaid rolls, because if you are, you're going to have to impoverish yourself, okay, participate in what's known as the spin down in order to get on those rolls. So what you need to do is look into A, keeping this temple as healthy as possible, and B, long-term care. That's something you want to look into. mcenow.com. If you want to talk about it, get a look at, how that works. We'd be happy to help you with that. All right, so next up, we've got unfunded Social Security promises. Those total roughly $50 trillion, $47.7 trillion to be exact. Publicly held debt is $24 trillion. Pension and retiree health care for government employees, about $13 trillion. And then we've got other liabilities totaling $2 trillion for a total of $151 trillion in national debt. Okay. Now, of course, the ways in which you can control this are with inflation, so making money more expensive. The Fed has said they're trying to do that, but here's the problem. That $151 trillion in debt, actually, this gets even higher and more burdensome for the country as interest rates rise, because it increases the amount of interest we have to pay on these debts. So the Fed is not going to go hog wild with interest rates, I don't believe. If he did, it would take inflation down, rather, and over time, we would see the American consumer in a better place. Of course, we would go through a recession, but look, I think we're already in one. So they've played around with interest rates because they know they're going to be exposed to higher interest payments on this gargantuan debt. And then the only other way to get the money is to increase taxes, right? So we can do something about that. The IRS actually has rules embedded in the tax code that says, hey, look, if you want to take advantage of what will be looked back upon as low taxation rates, low income taxation, then pay the tax now. And in the future, when we inevitably have to raise taxes to address this debt situation, at that point, you'll have a bucket of money that is not subject to those higher taxation rates, higher income taxation rates. Now, a lot of people out there think that, oh, well, you know, when I'm ready to retire, I'll be in a lower tax bracket. I wouldn't make that bet because, again, taxes are going up. Taxes are going up automatically in 2025. No one's talking about it with the expiration of the Trump tax cuts. Then they're going to come in and they're going to have to figure out a way to pay for all of this largesse that they've sent to Eastern Europe, all of these new Americans that are coming into the country, and all of the money being spent on that. Okay, not to mention Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, military, and government retirements. Okay, so that's where we are. How do you get out of it? You need to seriously look at two things. And I always preach this, guys, pass this message on. Like and subscribe also. The Roth IRA and a permanent life insurance policy. Both of those vehicles will put you into a realm where you can pay your taxes now when taxation is, again, going to be looked back upon as, wow, those were the good old days, and have a stack of dollars or a bucket of money that you don't have to have exposed to income taxation in the future. And yes, in a life insurance policy is just that, okay? It has a death benefit, which is another, thing that makes this attractive to pass on wealth to your heirs tax-free. So that's what we got to do. Look seriously into these things, guys. If you need any help, mcenow.com is where you can find us, and we'd love to consult you. We don't charge anything for that. But this is vitally important. This is the real debt that we're dealing with, $151 trillion. You think that we're ever going to get a handle on that? Absolutely not. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.